Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be planning and setting up for May 2026. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Guys, it's already time to set up for May. I'm super excited. I love setting up my new month every month. I think this is probably one of my favorite videos to film each month, and I feel like it's also one of your favorite ones to watch, so I'm just so excited about it. So today I'm going to set up my journals and planners. I have the 5 main ones that I use here. Well, I guess that's not true. I do also really frequently use my 5-year journal, but I don't do any setup for that one at the beginning of the month. I do that kind of as part of the first. So I'm not going to do that one in this video, but what I will do is set up my daily journal, which means I'm going to set up my calendar page and set my goals and do my monthly vision board. That one definitely takes the longest. I'm also going to set up my take a note and my everyday carry and my craft planner. I also do need to set up my thinking book, overflow book. At the beginning of the month, I just put a sticker for the month. I'm not going to set that up yet because April is not yet over. So I just basically add that in there on the first day of May that I start using that journal. So I'm just going to set up these 4 in this video. That's what I do every month. And as usual, I'm going to put timestamps down below so you can skip ahead or around just to the journals or planners that you have an interest in. I'm going to start with my take a note and my everyday carry. These ones typically I work on them together, and I essentially set up in here my monthly calendar. I set these up a month in advance. So last month in my April plan with me, I set up the bare bones of my May, because that is really going to I use this for future planning, and I need the month ahead to be able to look ahead to it. So today I'm going to be setting up June. I'm also going to be finalizing May by adding in my cleaning and my goals and that type of thing for May, and making sure all of my appointments are good. For my everyday carry, I have the Soft Paper Studios weekly diary. This is essentially a Hobonichi Weeks without all of the branding or the yellow pages. And I'm not super thrilled with this book, but I'm sticking it out because I've already put all of my stickers for the whole year in here, and it's, we're getting to May, we're almost halfway through. So it is working for me. So this one, I do have all of my monthly calendars set up in advance for the entire year, because this is what I carry with me for my future planning. And this is kind of like my on-the-go calendar to know kind of when I'm available. So I am going to just make sure that my monthlies are all updated in here. And then I also set up my weeklies because this is not dated. I do need to set up my weeklies, at least put the dates in advance, because that does make it much more easy for me to actually use it. I have not yet put any collections in here, partially because I just don't love this book. I don't know. I might still do some. I want to love this book. It's not lay flat, and that drives me insane with such a small book. But otherwise, the paper's great, the page size is great, the color is great. So I don't know. We'll see. But as far as today, I'm just going to go ahead and do both of those. I'm using the Coffee Monster Co. kits to set these up. So I'm going to go ahead and do a mix of voiceover and music like I usually do, and set these ones up, and then I'll move into whatever's next. So during my setup for my take a note, there are two spreads that I really set up. So first you saw me finishing up my May spread, and now I'm moving on to my June spread. So for my June spread, I am setting up the basics of the spread at this point in time. Even though we're going into May, I am using this for future planning and kind of looking ahead. So during the month of May, my June calendar will really fill up as I schedule appointments. My work calendar usually fills up a few months in advance, and I keep that in Outlook at work, and I also have a separate work planner. But I do transfer a lot of my work appointments into my everyday carry planner because I want to know when I'm busy. So this planner is going to show my work schedule to the extent it impacts my availability. So for example, I might put in here that I have to go to New York City for work because I'm traveling, or I might put in here, I have a meeting on a day that is in person that I need to be in the office for. And that way I know, don't schedule a hair appointment during that because I need to be available. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. I won't really put any substantive work stuff. I definitely don't put any substantive work stuff in here because that is confidential, and that will all show up in my work planner. The bottom row of each the bottom row of each square here that I'm filling in is my work schedule. So I work full time Monday through Friday. And what I do is I indicate in my planner where I am for work. So when I have that gray line there, that means that I am not working those days. It is either I'm taking them off or I don't have to work for another reason. I do have every other Friday off, so you can see those designated as my past days. There's also the day off for Juneteenth, which is a state holiday. So I have that designated. And then the rest of those are vacation time that I am taking. The pink highlight, the row above that, is me traveling. So I always put the bottom row is my work schedule, and then the second row from the bottom is my travel schedule. So I am traveling. We're going on vacation in June. So you can see the dates of that. And of course, it goes through the weekend there. And I just leave that bottom row blank on the weekends because I don't work. The other thing you can see me doing is filling in some of my work schedule. I have the T/C, which is my telecommuting. And that's just indicating that I am telecommuting on those specific days. I also am marking some additional appointments and things that I need to schedule on my planner here. I'm marking grocery days. I've been adding a lot more stickers this year. I just love them. The Coffee Monster Co stickers are so cute. And this year she has like these sketchy style ones, which I absolutely adore. So you can see I added in my paydays there. I added in a sticker to designate that I have I guess it's like a work meeting that day. On the Tuesday the 2nd, I'm adding in the holidays and our grocery trip and stuff like that needs to get done. I'm adding little geotags for our travel, and so I'm going to write in the destinations. In June, we are going to Glacier National Park in Montana and to Banff National Park in Canada. And so those are the main destinations. And then at the end, I put a little home icon because we are coming home. And then you can see I wrote in there that I'm using my vacation time off of work. I am not going to fill in my tasks list and everything on June. Instead, I did that in May. So in May there, you can see I had filled in that sidebar, and that is really my home cleaning task list. So I track all of the cleaning that I want to get done around the house and additional deep cleaning and other tasks that need to get done in May. In this right-hand box that I'm putting here on the right-hand side, you can see I pulled over my craft planner. I write down what is the kit that I'm using in Project Life for a specific week. And that is going to help me kind of understand what I need to take pictures of so that I can be prepared to do whatever it is I need to do for that Project Life spread. Sometimes I want to take a specific daily photo, or sometimes I'm working around a theme. And so I'm definitely going to do that. And So I'm going to want to know that in my planner so that I can take those photos. I've actually been trying to do that right now and do a week where I take a photo a day, and I've just failed so many times at it because I keep forgetting to check it in my planner in the morning. Here I'm going about filling in the bottoms here with these washi strips, also from the Coffee Monster Co. I added that into my everyday carry as well. My everyday carry, I don't have as much to update as my take a note because, like I said, I did all of that at the beginning of the year. The only thing I really need to do in here are update the weekly spreads. So all I'm going to do is go ahead and add in the dates. Okay, so next I'm gonna do my craft planner, and April's not over, but I just kind of wanted to check in with this. So I did do this. I finished my Cocoa Daisy. My Ferris wheel press hasn't arrived yet. I did do this. So that is all done. I just need to film it. And let's see. I will probably do that still this weekend. I still have some. I actually still have 2 weekends in April of crafting left to do before my May starts, but because of just timing with editing videos and everything, because I like to share this video with you on the first of the month, I'm gonna go ahead and set up May in here. I'm pretty much gonna do the same thing I normally do where I'm tracking my products in and out. I'm tracking my projects. So far, I'm doing really well with products this month. I've been actually making a lot of stuff, which I'm super excited about. I do want to start putting some specific layouts here that I want to do, because sometimes I plan layouts that need to get done at a certain time and then I kind of forget to do them. So I'm going to try to do that a little bit in here, but otherwise it's going to be the same. So I'm going to, let's see, I have a few other things in here. I did my week in the life plan, my craft cubbies, which was part of my craft room redo. I have a storyteller kit, which is paid content in the Storyteller Kit classroom at Ellie Edwards, and then I'm going to move to here to do May. So I'm going to go ahead and do a combination of music and voiceover and get this one put together. Okay, so I am just going through and setting up my product trackers. These are pretty similar month to month. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I make them. I've adjusted a little bit through the years as I've added more things or tried to make them a little bit more efficient, but essentially these are the same. Every month I track my new stamps that come into my stash. I don't track stamps out, of course, because those are not consumables. They don't get used up, but I do track when the stamps get put into my stamp organization catalog system. If you are new to my channel and curious about my stamp organization catalog system, I do have a separate video for that, and I will link that in the description box below. I also track new craft plans. If you are new to my channel or unfamiliar with me, I do plan out a lot of my scrapbook projects in advance. A lot of those plans are sketched out in the Storyteller classrooms over at Ellie Edwards. However, I have done some throughout the years on my YouTube channel if you are curious how that progress or how that process comes about. But essentially, I sketch out my project and I put the supplies for that specific project into a Ziploc bag and leave it there until I'm ready to put that layout together. However, I have a lot of these planned projects kind of piling up, so I am tracking the newly planned projects that go into my stash and then the ones that I have put together that were already planned. So I'm trying to use up more of those planned projects than I create. I'm also tracking new kits in and kits out. I track a kit as out when I have broken it up and moved it into my stash. So not necessarily totally used, but it's no longer in my stash as a separate kit. I track project life cards in and out. I track embellishments in and out. For embellishments, I track rolls of washi tape, sheets of stickers, die cuts, and chipboard pieces. And that's the one I struggle with the most. I bring a lot in and don't use nearly as many as I bring in, so I'm trying. And then for finally, the last thing I track are pattern papers. So any size pattern paper that comes into my stash, I track those. I do have on YouTube or on Instagram, I have a photo of how April went in my tracking. It was actually super successful. So you can see how those trackers came together at the end of the month. Now I'm documenting what my project goals are for me. So I'm just going to talk about that a little bit briefly here. And essentially, I want to work on Project Life. I'm going to be documenting Week in the Life along with the Allie Edwards community in May. So stay tuned if you want to see more about that. I actually have my plan up on YouTube already, so I will link that in the description box below if you've missed it. I'm obviously going to keep up with my creative team assignments, and then I really want to work on just creating some scrapbook layouts and my stamp organization and everything else. Something new I'm trying this month are writing some specific layouts that I want to create, because they are ones that kind of need to be created in the month itself, even though they're planned in advance. Otherwise, I might forget the stories or the sentiments. The journaling would be really hard to do looking back. So I'm just going to try that, and I'll check in with it with you guys in my next month's plan with me to share how that went and if that helped me kind of use up more of those projects. Okay, so I finished laying out my products and my projects. This one actually came together really quickly. I follow the same format every month, and I just put on some TV and do this. For my actual projects, I just wanted to talk through a little bit what my projects were this month. So I'm continuing Project Life, which is kind of my priority. I still have 2 weeks to do in April, but like I said, April's not over. I have my creative team projects. I'm documenting Week in the Life in May. So I want to actually try to finish it in May, which is probably not going to happen because I'm documenting the second to last week of May. But I'm going on vacation in early June or the middle of June. And so I want to at least have it done before then. So I'm going to try to get as much done as possible during that last week in May. I want to continue working on my stamp organization, and I have some back journaling and my take a note that I want to prioritize. And then a new thing I'm doing, I had to turn the camera off because I do have to look at my planned projects that are sketched out that are in the storyteller classrooms, but I have planned projects for specific months in my stories album. And so I'm just prioritizing those. And then I do think I want to also add in here to kind of finish certain like monthly pages, but I'm gonna have to do that closer to May because I'm not entirely sure how much I'm gonna get done in April. So I will share photos of this over on Instagram, and you'll be able to see kind of what it looks like when it's closer to May. But right now it's fully set up, and so I have this ready to go. Next, I'm going to move to my daily journal. I have to set up my monthly calendar. I need to do my monthly goals, And then I need to do my vision board. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put you guys on voiceover/music and get all of these put together. So I'm going to start with my goals page, and I'm just going to talk through this a little bit and share a little bit of my thoughts on goal setting. So I had actually taken a break from monthly goal setting for the last few years, and I really felt like I wanted to get back into it in 2026, and I'm kind of feeling a little stale with it. So I'm doing it this month. But I think that going into June, I might need a little bit of a refresh or something. I'm not sure. So I love goal setting, but for me, a month is not very long because I do have a full-time job. I have a lot of obligations and other things going on, so I don't have a lot of free time to devote to my personal goals outside of job and, just regular maintenance, keeping up with my YouTube channel, keeping up with just everyday life, cleaning and that type of stuff. And for me, I think of goals as stuff beyond the everyday. So the bigger things, the new steps I want to take, for example, for my YouTube channel, I'm not going to consider it a goal to get out my 2 to 3 weekly videos because that's just something I do every week. But I might consider it a goal to reach a new milestone or create a new type of video or something like that. So it's always going to be going beyond my standard maintaining, if that makes sense. So doing monthly goals for me is a little bit tough because it's kind of discouraging because I don't make a ton of progress on a monthly basis, especially if I have other stuff going on. So we'll see. We'll see how we do. For my April goals, I didn't get a lot of them done, but I did have some big things that I wanted to tackle, and I did actually accomplish those. I went to a headache clinic and made some progress on treating my chronic migraines, which, if anyone suffers from migraines, they know how big of a deal that is. I finally finished my craft room redo. I think there are still some smaller organizational things that I could benefit from redoing or working through, but overall my craft room is done, and I hope to film and share a craft room tour very soon, so stay tuned for that. And if you missed that part 3 of my craft room redo, that is available on YouTube, so I will link that in the description box below. I also was able to kind of get back into a lot of my routines in terms of working through my various practices, updating my commonplace, things like that. So I felt really good about that. And I was able to do a lot of big things around the house. We got our house painted, the interior painted, the main area interior of the interior was painted, which was something that was on our list for such a long time. And then we also did some like all of the spring yard work and everything. I live in the Northeast, so the yard is really kind of like dead and covered in snow all winter. So there's a lot of refresh stuff to do in the spring, and I did do a lot of that. So April was a very productive month, but beyond so I guess that's kind of my point with goal setting monthly is it feels like it wasn't when I look at my list, but it really was. I did a lot. So in May, I was pretty relaxed with the goals that I wrote out. Let's see, we'll see how it goes, and I'll check in with you guys in June. In the video now, you can see I've moved on to working on my vision board. I'm just flipping through some magazines, cutting stuff out that I might want to include in my vision board. You can see I also have my tray of alphabets nearby. So if I see a very fun alpha or a rare letter that I might want to cut out, I'm going to cut those out and store them in there. So when I want to write out words, I have that option. I'm just cutting out various words and phrases that I might want to include in my vision board or put in my stash to use at another time. I also cut out various icons and things like that I might want to include or tear out large images. I'm just looking for all of these things as I'm flipping through my magazines. I've gotten a lot of questions recently about what magazines I like to get. And my favorite ones for cutting out of are Real Simple and Magnolia Journal. Magnolia Journal is a little bit pricier, but I think it's worth it because the images and the text is just so beautiful. And then Real Simple has been kind of my mainstay magazine that I've cut out of for over a decade. And beyond those two, I have picked up quite a few. Recently, I recommend just getting magazines about things you're interested in. So I have travel ones because I like travel. And so that there's going to be a lot of words and photos and things that relate to travel in a travel magazine. And I do a lot of travel. So travel goes on a lot of my vision boards and I use it in a lot of my journaling. So it makes a lot of sense for me. If you're not someone who travels a lot, then I wouldn't recommend that. Maybe a gardening magazine if you spend a lot of time in the yard, or a fashion magazine if you really care about fashion. So picking magazines that kind of go to what types of words and sentiments work for you is really what I recommend. What works for me might not work for you if your life doesn't look like mine. So for example, I wouldn't have a parenting magazine because I don't have small children. But if you do, maybe having a parenting magazine would be really helpful because it would have a lot of words and phrases and images that relate to parenting. I also recommend purchasing subscriptions online. So magazines are super, super cheap if you pick up subscriptions online. Not all of them. Like I said, Magnolia Journal is still a little bit pricier, but it's still not that much compared to other crafting supplies. And you can pick up a year subscription to a lot of magazines for like $10. And then you're going to get that monthly magazine. I purchased mine from totalmagazines.com. There's a few different websites online that offer subscriptions. You can also usually purchase them directly from whatever magazine you want. I get them from one of those sites that just kind of does all the magazines, because sometimes when you do that, when you purchase a magazine, you'll get a deal on another one. So I have a few magazines that I wouldn't necessarily have picked, but they said, I can have the entire year for $3 or something like that. So I was like, okay, why not? Even if it's not something that I truly would like most of the images, there's going to at least be words and letters that I can cut out, if nothing else. And so you can see me just kind of flipping through my magazines. I usually do 2 to 3 a month as I'm working on my vision boards. And I really just kind of go through whatever has recently come in. And then beyond that, I pull ones from my stash. I believe this is like a super old, Really Simple from my stash. I have a lot of older magazines because I subscribed to Real Simple for over a decade, and I actually read these and then I didn't cut them out. I did do vision boards and such back in the day for sure, but not monthly. So a lot of these just never got cut out from, or even if they did, I maybe was looking for different things 10 years ago. So I am going through some older magazines. Just a heads up, if you ever notice my address on the front of a magazine, that I have been very careful about redacting that if it's my current address. A lot of times it's not my current address. It is an address from like a decade ago. And so I don't care if people know where I used to live a long time ago. So yeah, no worries about that. Once I decide that I'm done flipping through magazines, it's really just kind of like a feel based. If I feel like I'm done, you'll see in this video, I actually come back and flip through magazines again at the end because I feel like I didn't have enough words and I felt like flipping through magazines again. And part of that was because I'm doing this on different days. You'll notice that my sleeves change at some point, and that's because I came back and finished this on another day. I just had run out of time to craft by myself. I love doing my monthly plan with me's, but it does take a few hours to do all of these. And I typically can't do that in one sitting, which is totally fine. The first step for me in actually putting together my vision board is selecting my background images. And because I'm doing a 2-page spread these days, starting this year, rather than the one A5 size, I have a little more space to play around with and use more than one background image. I'm typically using one on each side and then potentially adding in some smaller ones. You'll see as I go through this what I end up with this month. I tend to gravitate towards seasonal looking images. You can see in my stash of images that I had flipped through that I had a lot that were either like fall themed or winter themed. And obviously I'm not going to use those for May. But for May, I'm leaning towards a lot more kind of spring ones or summery, warmer months, flowers. So you can see I pulled a lot of florals. This large image here is from Magnolia Journal. Like I said, that's one of the reasons I love that journal is that there's so many like just gorgeous images in there that are just artsy and pretty. So this one is just this pretty drawing of I'm assuming it's Joanna Gaines. It's usually her because it's her magazine in the garden. And I just like all the florals. When selecting background images for my vision boards, I'm thinking about the colors and the imagery, but I'm also thinking about empty space. So you want an image that's not super busy because you need to have space to stack on top of it. So this one, and I was struggling for whatever reason, my rolling adhesive just wasn't working on the magazine. So I just did it on the paper itself. So for this one, I'm obviously going to want to keep the image of the girl sitting at the table uncovered. But there's a lot of kind of ground tile. There's some green background. There's some florals that I can definitely stack some words on top of. On the left-hand side of the spread, I decided to go with this image of this girl embroidering these flowers. And I don't know where that one came from. I would guess from a Real Simple, but I don't know for sure. And I like the imagery of this. I like the colors. I think it goes really well with the other image. And I've been cross-stitching a lot, so I really like that piece of it as well. For the top portion, because that image wasn't big enough, I just took a scrap from the first image and I'm just adding that there. And it's just like background greens and a little bit of brown and stuff. And that is going to work really well as just a base to hold a lot of words. I considered putting that additional image of the girl holding those like purple florals, but I decided against it because I felt like it was already busy enough in the background. You don't want your background to be so busy that you have no space to kind of stack on top of it. Next, what I'm going to do is come up with my title. So because this is May, I'm going to write out the word May, which is obviously a super short title. And I'm just going through my alpha box here to pick out some letters to write May. And I'm going to write it twice, once on this board and then once on my calendar spread, which I'm actually going to flip to and set up fairly soon. And I tend to just kind of do that in the middle of the process here, just whenever I feel like it. So you'll see that in a bit. I'm just kind of flipping between the different letters to try to get ones that I think look good together. I want ones that aren't so similar that they don't look like maybe they were intended to actually go together. I want colors that I like together. And I just making them kind of work for me. I pulled over this craft washi tape that I have to add into the edge here. So whenever I create a vision board in a journal like this, I'm always going to want to add in something like this so that, add some washi along the edge here so that when you turn the pages, it is smooth. When you have something glued into the binding and you turn the page, sometimes it will get caught and then it will bulk up your journal because it will be folded right there and the page won't turn smoothly, and it's just, I don't like it. So I avoid that by adding some washi tape into the seam there. I'm also going to pull over some white washi and put that right along this seam here on the left-hand side because that's going to be where I want to put my title. And by adding that white washi, it's going to help the alphas from the word May just kind of pop off the background a little bit, as opposed to getting lost in all the dark colors of the background. Now I'm going to flip forward to my monthly calendar and I'm going to set this up. When I do my monthly calendar, I add in the name of the month at the side, and then I'm going to use some stickers from Cocoa Daisy to add the titles of each day of the week. And then I'm going to use some stamps to stamp out all of the dates. And I just do this really quickly. I'm going to put it on a higher speed fast forward and then add a little bit of washi at the bottom. And this is just a base for my image a day. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, definitely check out one of my flip through videos for my journal at the end of the month. And that way you can see kind of how this all comes out at the end. So the last step in the vision board process are to add words and phrases on top of my images. I'm using ones that I just cut out right now and also ones from my stash. You saw me pull over the little wood tray, which are words and phrases and things from magazines and such that I have out on my desk to use whenever I want in my daily journaling. I also brought over my tray that I have organized of magazine cutouts that I want to maybe pull from to add to this as well. And then I'm just going ahead, hi pumpkin, and adding in various words and phrases as I go. I'm just gonna use rolling adhesive and kind of just try to stack them along the page. And you can see me doing kind of just like a stack of them up and down each side of the spread. And I just like the way that that looks. I feel like this month I had too many kind of like large words and not a lot of small ones. So I was struggling a little bit with that. I also really loved in April and maybe even in March, I had done a lot of like phrases and I didn't have a lot of phrases or like sentences that I was able to kind of cut out and put. I did have that one on the top left where I wrote a pause from the daily routine, but besides that, I didn't have very many. So I was kind of struggling with that because I wanted to add more of those like smaller phrases and smaller words, and there just weren't that many. So you can see here, I found one that I was able to add that says, and remember that the lows are valuable. But beyond that, I wasn't really able to find very much. And so I'm just going through and adding what I have on here and understanding that, you know, it's okay. This is what I came up with this month. And actually at the end, I do really like how this one comes together. You'll see as I continue putting this together that I feel like I just don't have that much. So I do end up pulling out another magazine to flip through again. And I also bring over some word phrase stickers from my stash, which is also a good place to get more sentiments. If you don't have a lot of magazines or you don't want to cut out of magazines because it is time consuming, you can use just supplies from your stash to create your own vision board. You can use word phrase strips, stickers. I have a ton of those and I end up adding a lot of them into this spread. It's a good way to use up a lot of them, especially the ones that might have specific sentiments that you might like, but not necessarily want to use in your scrapbook pages. I also recommend using stickers, and you can use things printed off the internet. So you really don't have to have the magazines. If you want to create a vision board, you can just go ahead and do it. I've also seen people create these in Canva or digitally. So there are a lot of ways to create a monthly vision board. It really doesn't have to be the same way as me to participate in this project. So I'm going to go ahead and put music on as I finish this one up. And I'm also going to kind of clean out my boxes here of cutouts and kind of keep in mind what I want available on my desk in May. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thanks. Bye.